Okay, check that you've created a new project. For this case it's called Play. Then we can press on the New button. As I said before, we tend to use the standard ones. Here, right at the top, don't worry about changing to any of these, and we're going to hit Standard IPT, and just another way to check that Play is created there. As before, we get a new sketch looking down on top of our part on the XY plane, and this time we're going to draw a rectangle. Now, although you can enter the sizes in, it's best practice to first of all get what I call your geometry sorted out first. Okay, so we put a rectangle down, right click OK. So as it's a rectangle, these lines will stay horizontal and vertical. Now I grab a corner, they stay at 90 degrees. Okay. So in terms of geometry for a rectangle, it is a rectangle. Next, we're just going to arrange the rectangle about this center point. We've got a vertical and a horizontal constraint. So what we're actually going to do is line up. Let's click on vertical. The center point, that came up because I had that line already selected, which is horizontal. Just cancel, it gets rid of it. So we're going to click on the center point. Then we're going to find the middle of this horizontal line, and we're going to put this point over this point. So we've already clicked the center. Left click on the middle of that line, and you'll see the whole part jump over. Right click OK. What happens now is that the part is symmetrical about these points here. Now we're going to repeat the process across the middle. Look, again, it's popped up because I had this line selected. Just hit cancel. You'll do that all the time. We're going to click the center point and then find the middle of this line. Okay, and now the part moves equally left and right, up and down around that center point. This is what I mean by getting the geometry right. Once that's done, we're good to go with putting some sides on. So click dimension, click on the horizontal line, just one click, move up, left click again, and the box should turn up. So in here we're going to type 80 and click the tick. You see it's now set the size. Double click the scroll wheel so you can see everything, and repeat on the left hand side. Left click on the line, left click to put the dimension down, this time 120. The enter key also does the same. Again, just disappeared off the screen, so double click the middle scroll wheel. You see down the bottom here it now says fully constrained, and that's where what we should have at the end of every sketch that we've done. It should say fully constrained. Once we see that, we know that everything's okay, and we can click finish sketch. So we've gone back to the 3D mode, and what we want to do now is turn our 2D sketch into a feature to give it some height. And there's lots of ways of doing it. We can either press the extrude button up here, or we can left click on the line, and then we get the little icon extrude. Okay, we've got two boxes here. Sometimes you'll see it come up with this left hand box minimized. You can use either one. This one has a bit more writing on to tell you what's going on. This one over here is just a bit of a summary. Okay, so you can either side, up to you, but they all do the same. So we want to go 10mm up. We could go down, we could go equal, or we could go unevenly about that center work plane, but we want to go up. 10mm. Because there was only one sketch, there's only one profile it can see, so it's automatically picked it. I'm just going to hit OK. The next step is we're going to put some features onto this part. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to round these edges off, all four at 15 millimeters. We've got a special button called fillet that can do that. There's two ways of doing it. We can either select the corners first, and as you see, when I click one, the other one disappears. So if I want to add to the selection, I'll just press Control and left click. I can't see that one round there, so I'm just going to have to spin my part round. Okay, so now I've got all four, and then I can press the fillet button, or I just press Escape to press fillet, and then it's just going to ask me to go and pick those fillets anyway. This time it will actually add to the selection. If you want to remove one, say you click one by accident, now you can control click and it gets rid of it. And just now change the size to 15. You can grab this arrow, that'll do the same thing. Okay, so we've created a basic shape, we've added our fillets, we've done them all in one because they're all the same size. It just helps later on if we ever wanted to change it, and we know that they're all the same size, then as you can see we could just modify and it'll all update. If they were different, say these bottom two were different to the top two, then you'd create two fillets. It just depends on what we want to do. The next step is we're going to create some holes here on the top of the plate, and we're going to do that in two different ways just to show you different parts of the hole command and the effect that it has on your final part. So we click on hole. Just going to move this up into the corner a bit more. Let's move the part down there. Okay, the first one comes up is linear. There's some choices there. I'm just going to show you linear and concentric. So linear, first of all it asks us to click on a face. Where's our hole going to come down through? And then it wants two references. So the first one, we're going to use this back edge, type 15, and then we're going to click this bottom edge and 15. So the hole will be 15 millimeters away from the corner, and we're going to create a 15 mil hole, and it goes all the way through, and then apply. Don't hit OK, otherwise the box disappears and you have to put all the sides in again. Okay, so now it's ready to do the same again. So we click on the face, we click on one edge, 15, click on the other edge, 15, and apply. The next two holes at the top end, we're going to use the concentric command. It's pretty similar. Because we haven't hit OK yet, it still remembered this size of 15. Again, we click on the plane where we want the hole. This time we have to pick a round edge, and what it'll do there is put this hole in the center, and hit apply, and again on this side, and apply. Now we're finished. OK. So we've got four holes, two using linear and two using concentric. So what happens here? Well, let me show you. If I just go in, you don't have to do this, or you can if you want. I'm just going to change, double click and change this to 120, finish the sketch. Okay, so here we can see that the holes are moving with the part. As I made it wider, the holes moved with it. But the difference now is that if I change these fillet sizes, edit feature, and let's just make that 30. These two here stay at 15 mil away from each edge, but these two are still on the center point of this fillet, which is now 30, so it's 30 away. I'm now just going to change that back the way it was, go back into the sketch, change that back to 80, So they look the same, but they are a little bit different. It just depends on what you want these holes to do, where they want to be in relation to the outside of the part. It's always something you need to think of when you're creating your features. Okay, last thing for this part is we're going to create a slot on this top face here. So to do that, we need to create a new 2D sketch on there. The part spins round. There's lots of ways of doing this, but in Inventor 2014 we've got a new button here called slot. So we are going to create a slot, and we're just going to put it anywhere for now. Okay, and then we're going to add some sizes. So remember, geometry first, sizes afterwards. So it's doing what we want. Okay, first of all I'm going to put these two center points on top of each other by using the coincident button. Okay, now I'm ready to dimension. That line is going to be 30 millimeters long. I use the enter key there instead of the tick button, and 10 there. Okay, now that slots in the middle this way and this way, 30 mil long, 10 mil radius. Finish the sketch. Okay, and now we're going to extrude this part out. So we're going to click the extrude button. So now it can actually see more than one profile. It can see these 4 circles, it can see the outer part, and it can see this inner part of the slot, which is the bit we want. So we select that. It defaults to adding material, but we want to remove material. So we're going to click on the cut button. And it's going to do it 10 mil, which is this distance, but we want it to go all the way through. So the distance is all. It just means if we ever change this to 20 mil, this slot, we want always to be going all the way through. Okay, and that's it, done. What we just need to do now is press save, and you see it's got a default of part 1. Mine's part 4, and we want to give this a proper name, because eventually, just like your name in the settings, this will end up on a drawing. So we're going to call it plate, because that's what it is. So capital P. Okay, and don't change any of this. Inventor's managing our location through the project, so we don't go outside of the project. If you do, it will tell you that you've changed location. So we're just going to save it as plate there. You'll see the file name change up there, and that's it. Well done, you finished your first part.